Hey yo, today I'm going to be ranking every single legendary in Fire Emblem Heroes for use in arena modes. There are currently 34 legendaries with levels of strength that vary drastically, so I have 3 criteria that will determine where on the list they will go. Number 1 is scoring. Some legendaries just don't get you as many points as others. Number 2 is effects. This can be anything that makes your ally stronger at combat, such as damage reduction or follow-up effects. Number 3, and most importantly in my opinion, is mobility. Since arena maps are limited in size, any ability that gives extra mobility like Kanto or having more movement can be the difference between a win or a loss. For every entry, I'll show the unit's effective base stat total, which impacts how much they score, and give a few sample builds. With that out of the way, let's start off with the worst legendary in the game, Roy. Compared to everyone else, Roy is so bad that he doesn't even deserve to go in his tier. He goes in Roy tier. The only ability he really even has is Distant Counter, which is very underwhelming when you look at what everyone above him has. He also scores the lowest a legendary possibly can. If you really like Roy, then I would still encourage you to build him up, because he may get a good remix someday, but as of now, he is for sure the worst one in the game. Above Roy is F tier. Every unit here is going to be severely lacking in either stats or effects. Starting off, the F tier is Robin. Her weapon and A skill together are alright, but the thing is, her A skill can't be used if you want to score as high as possible with her, since she needs a dual skill. That just leaves her weapon, which is extremely subpar, albeit better than Roy's. Ike's kit is all about his unique special, which is pretty cool, but he has a lack of any other noteworthy effects. This means he'll probably end up losing a lot of matchups others above him can win with ease. Bjorn has an alright weapon, but a good special in Ice Mirror 2, which gives her damage reduction and extra damage against ranged foes. While not bad by any means, everyone above her has that little extra something. Self is good in theory, having a guaranteed follow-up attack before the enemy can even counterattack. However, most units currently in the meta carry no follow-up, which makes him more of just a mediocre unit. That's it for the F tier. Now we're going to move on to the D tier, which consists of units with unique and good skills, but have a severe lack of movement options and just don't score very well. First is Julia, who is built to take hits from mages. She did this job pretty well, but is also the only job she does well. Other legendaries can do that and more. Lynn, like Robin, has a unique A skill which can't be used for maximum scoring. This leaves just her weapon, which is actually really good and has a pretty unique effect. Celica is pretty good in player phase, being able to nuke a lot of common threats, but being an infantry mage severely limits her movement options. This means she can get in and kill something, but then is kinda screwed when she gets hit by the rest of the team. The same can be said about Alm, but I like him a little more because his special gives him a little bit of true damage. Harid is in a similar position as Seliph in that his weapon gets beat out by no follow-up, but he gets a lot more stats from his weapon, and he has a great supportive B skill that inflicts the guard status on enemies. Finishing off D tier is Eliwood, who gives bonus Doubler to his allies, and this makes him possibly one of the best support units in the game, assuming your opponent isn't running Panic. He's also pretty dog water at combat. And that's the end of the D tier. Now we're going to move on up to the C tier, where all of these units have something unique about them, with good stats to boot, and can take on some of the most common arena threats. Hector can be great at combat, having damage reduction and prevent follow-up on his weapon. What really sets him apart though is his C skill, which gives special acceleration to his team and can set up stuff like Gale Force. He is an armor though, so you'll probably need to bring other armor along to use Armor March and negate that poor mobility. Edelgard's in a weird spot. She has arguably the best ability of any legendary on this list, allowing her to act again after combat, but to activate it she can't be adjacent to an ally. This can make using Edelgard extremely clunky and frustrating, I would know because I have her at +10. In theory she's great, in practice she's good. Corrin has a really unique special which has guaranteed damage reduction that can't be nullified by skills that are supposed to nullify damage reduction skills. Other than that, she has a lot of stats, but what's really holding her back is the fact that she has to choose between only one of the great many B skills she has access to. Ephraim is for sure the most consistent Gale Force unit on this list, only really being shut down by no follow-up, which again is unfortunately pretty prevalent in the meta. If not for that, he would be much higher, but even then he has Kanto and earns a respectable spot on the list. Ryoma has really all the common effects you could ever want in a unit. No follow-up, damage reduction, true damage, pretty much everything but some extra mobility. His stats are pretty impressive and allows him to win some matchups he has no business winning. Micaiah may seem like your average nuke, and that's because she is your average nuke, but she's really good at being a nuke because she is effective against armor and cavalry units and can take a hit back thanks to her damage reduction and her B skill. She also has a unique assist skill as a cute little bonus. That concludes the C tier. Now we're going to start with a B. We're starting to get to the point where all these units just have effects out the wazoo, so if you get a little confused, then all you need to know is more words is approximately equal to good unit. Dimitri has a slaying effect, damage reduction, and most impressively, a ton of true damage. This combination allows for him to take a hit and then retaliate for big damage. He also debuffs all foes around him as a bonus, making it so he can possibly take on multiple foes in a single turn. Faye is by far the most gimmicky thing on this entire list, and that's good. Her weapon gives a bunch of effects that lend well to tanking, and when her special triggers, it can just feel like cheating. There are things that counter her like no follow-up and pulse tie, but when they aren't present, she puts in work. Marth is Mr. Stats. Stats, stats, stats. Oh my god. They might as well have said, if unit breathes, grants plus a million to all stats. Literally the only thing keeping him from being any higher is a lack of movement skills. In a meta where save skills are so good, of course the legendary with the save skill has to be pretty high up. Tiki has an awesome stat spread, not really lacking in any aspect. This allows her to take hits from some of the most dangerous threats there are. She again has a lack of movement options, preventing her from being too much higher. Erica comes with so many effects: damage reduction, true damage, Kanto, special charging, no follow-up. She basically has it all. She can't use distant counter if she wants to score optimally, but other than that, it's undoubtedly among the best of the melee legendaries. Before I said Eliwood was the best support on this list, and I was lying. It's actually Melbila. Giving his allies no follow-up shuts down so many of the most prominent arena threats it's not even funny. His special also does a ton of damage and disables damage reduction. His problem is yet again a lack of mobility, but he is the last unit on this list with that problem. That's the end of the B tier, and again all these units are just extremely solid. And now for the A tier. Everyone here puts in a ton of work on their own when it comes to killing stuff or just supporting their team. They also are extremely mobile and should make arena significantly easier. First is Gunthra, who can get almost as many stats as Marth, but is ranged and on a horse. Her nuking potential is just incredible thanks to her crazy weapon. Female Byleth disables all that special charging BS for her and her allies, which is really nice. Her C skill though gives her extra mobility, plus 7 attack speed, and no follow-up. She can take out a bunch of crazy units herself and has that little bit of extra mobility to push her over the top. Leaf has always been really solid. Already he's a ranged cavalry, which is great for arena, but his special is pretty nuts. With relative ease, he can grant himself another action after combat, giving him just that much more mobility. They also made his weapon so good that one of the effects is only active when under the player's control, the only time in the entire game this condition shows up. In terms of pure ability, Lucina is one of the best legendaries in the game, period. She has a positional assist skill which allows her to get her allies out of danger, and then can move again after using it, opening up so many possibilities for her mobility. Her weapon also gives her and her allies a guaranteed follow-up attack, as if her mobility alone wasn't good enough. The only reason she is this low is unfortunately because she scores the lowest possible of any legendary, the same as poor Roy down there. The same is true for the next entry on this list, Azura. She is a dancer and gives her allies another action, but then also allows those allies to move another space. Allowing your strongest unit to act again is just simply based. Sheeta just straight up kills any horse or armor, just ever, at all, and then after that, she can just kill anything else, just ever, at all. And also has Kanto to boot. Just incredible. Lilina is a great unit with great mobility and scores really well. Unlike the other ranged cavalry units, she can use a Trace B skill and still score optimally, allowing for awesome mobility. Her special makes her a simply incredible glass cannon that can get in and get out. Overall, everyone in the A tier is theoretically the perfect arena unit and should make your experience just a breeze. But there's still one tier above this, so what's better than perfect? Well, just straight broken is what. If Lilina is a glass cannon, Claude is a heavy artillery made of solid titanium. If he initiates combat, he is rewarded with 80% damage reduction for the rest of the turn. You don't have to be a Fire Emblem Heroes expert to realize that when your opponent is doing 20% of the damage they're supposed to be doing, that's not going to be very much at all. He is lacking a bit of mobility, but he straight up doesn't need it. You can park him in the middle of a crowd of enemies and watch them cry. Atri though is the definition of mobility. She has Kanto 2, meaning if she uses up all of her movement, she can still get away safely. She has a high attack with good bulk, a guaranteed follow-up attack, and 30% damage reduction, meaning she can kill really consistently. Sigurd can move one extra space, just by default, all the time. And when his special activates, the entire rest of his team can too. I really want to talk to the guy at Intelligent Systems who thought this was a good idea. The guy is also no slouch when it comes to combat, having a guaranteed follow-up and a bunch of damage reduction. And finally, the undisputed king of arena, the guy in the thumbnail, Quam. In combat, he's just alright, having armor effectiveness and a good stat spread, but he comes with the best skill in the game, a change fate. This skill positions an ally behind him and then gives him another action. If Crom just had the positional aspect of a change fate, it would still be incredible for arena. The fact that he gets another action afterwards makes Crom easily the most mobile unit on this entire list. Unlike Lucina, Crom scores very well, solidifying his spot at the top of the list. And that's the last entry on the list. Here it is. If you disagree with anything on this list, then leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and we can have a discussion about it. If you enjoyed this video, then I would appreciate it if you would go ahead and use a change fate on that subscribe button, so I worked really hard on this video. And of course, thank you so much for watching.